Hey there, first grade artists. I hope you enjoyed the story of Vincent Van Gogh, an artist who loved sunflowers in the color yellow and also swirly starry nights. And here is a portrait that Vincent Van Gogh painted of himself, a self-portrait. So a portrait is a picture of a person. But he also did a lot of still life paintings, which are an arrangement of objects on tables. So you might remember this poster from in the art studio. I have Vincent's sunflowers. So his favorite color, yellow, is the main color here. And it's an arrangement of sunflowers, the objects, on a table. And then he also loved landscapes too. So here's a daytime landscape. So an outside scene. And then here's a nighttime landscape. Starry, starry night. Amazing and very famous too. So we're going to use the style of Vincent Van Gogh to create still life or drawing here. And I'm going to draw the objects that I see in my art room because I gathered some sunflowers and some pumpkins and other fall objects. But you can draw things at your house, or you can look at images, the photos that I put on a slideshow, or even images of Vincent Van Gogh and try to almost copy his masterpieces too and put your own personal spin on it. So you can turn your paper any way you want. It could go vertical tall or horizontal flat, whatever you want. I'm going to go vertical tall this time because I'm going to be really focusing in on the sunflowers. So start with pencil, keep it light till you get it right, and then sketch in your composition. So I'm going to go pretty quick. You take your time, you look at what you're drawing, whether it's based on a photo or objects at your house or whatever. So I'm going to start with, I have a giant sunflower that's not real, so I'm going to start with the center because it's laying on the table. So this one always lives through the winter. And I'm really looking at the shapes of the petals, even counting how many there are, so it's as close to the real thing as possible. And since it's just a pencil outline, I'm going to leave it pretty light and sketchy. Then there is a pumpkin next to it, so I'm going to zoom in. There's a smaller pumpkin that you can barely see, and then a bigger pumpkin next to it. So I'm really looking at the forms and shapes and drawing what I see. And then a little bit of the fabric comes up that it's laying on the table. A curvy little stem. Well, now let's get the vase of sunflowers that's peeking out behind my fake one. So some leaves, some stems, and I must admit mine are a little dead and scraggly. But again, I'm just drawing what I see. You're going to take more time than I am right now. I'm going a little too fast. So, draw what you see. Oh, I even have my little scarecrow poking out. I'll draw him. He'll be peeking behind the pumpkin here. He's got a triangle nose, round rosy cheeks, and a stitched mouth and eyebrows. Alright, maybe I'll add one more sunflower to fill this empty space. I really like to fill the page, even if they're scraggly old sunflowers. Alright, so once you have it sketched in with pencil, I am going to outline with oil pastels. You could use regular crayons, or you could use oil pastels, or if you don't want to outline it at all, you don't have to. Even Sharpie marker would work. So I'm going to grab an orange to outline the pumpkin. So I'm just outlining as tracing your pencil marks. If your pencil mark is the road, your oil pastel is like a little car driving over that line. And this pumpkin's orange too, but it's a little lighter, so I'm going to use a lighter orange. I'll use a little brown for the stems. So I'm trying to match the color as best I can to what it looks like in real life here. I'm looking at what I'm drawn. I'm going to use that brown too for the center of my sunflower, that big round center. And then I'm going to make some texture marks because it's kind of rough. All those little seeds in there. I'm going to make little rough texture in my sunflower. You could do little rough lines like this. You could even be creative and use maybe some crisscross checkerboard, or I'm making a combination here. So you can do different lines to make different textures. In your sunflowers themselves, you might even want to use a little bit of that light orange. You could even do some zigzags if you want, or just regular lines that come out bursting from that center. Maybe there is a little bit of dark orange closer to the center, and then it gets lighter as it goes out, so I might grab my yellow now. So crayons and oil pastels are made of like an oily wax that will resist when I paint over top. I'll get my leaves too. I'll show you. I'll outline a leaf, get some lines in there. So Vincent Van Gogh had nice swirly lines. So every object kind of left its own mark, so to speak. I'll even get some darker green in there for part of the stems, outlining my pencil. Variety of green. I'll even put dark green in with the light green. Boom. Once you've outlined some with either oil pastel or crayon or Sharpie, or if you don't want to, you can go right into painting. I'm going to use what's called temper cakes. They're similar to watercolors but thicker. And like watercolors, you got to wake up one color at a time with a wet brush. So I have my water container. Right now it's clean. I got brushes in there. If your water gets nasty, you can always dump it out and get clean water. So, wet brush, swish and swirl and swish to wake up one color at a time. So let's say I want to start with a little orange for my pumpkin. I swish and swirl and swish to wake up the orange. And then nice smooth strokes. I can get that in there. And I can go right over top of that oily pastel and it'll still shine through because it resists that watery paint. Now I'll rinse my brush, get it nice and clean. Maybe I'll wake up sandy tan and do my stem. So you can still see that brown oil pastel. It's resisting the watery paint. If you get too much paint on there, or it gets runny and yucky, you can always dab it up with a little paper towel. And it'll kind of even add a texture if it's still wet. That's pretty cool. Alright, I'm going to rinse my brush one more time. I'm going to go over my sunflowers with yellow. So I'm going to wake up yellow with my nice clean brush. Again, I'm going to go over that oily pastel and you'll still see the different colors shine through. Nice smooth strokes, no bad hair days. Wow, that yellow sunflower, just like Vincent Van Gogh's favorite. I might paint the middle yellow as well over that brown. But we can mix our paint on the paper, just not on the tray. So before I go into brown, I wouldn't want to use my yellow brush. I want to rinse off the yellow. Make it nice and clean, then I can wake up brown. And maybe I'll just kind of tap in some brown into that wet yellow. You can still see my texture lines. Ooh, I'm liking that. Maybe I'll fling some brown up into the sunflower too, over that darker oil pastel. I like that. Then, if you want to, in the sky, you can add texture marks too. You could be a little bit like the Starry Night. If you want it to be nighttime, like the Starry Night picture, you could do some swirls and stars, the moon, or you could be daytime and just have some funky clouds. I might do a combination of both to show you. I'm going to start with white. White on white. You can't see it now, but maybe if I paint over it, you'll be able to see some of my funky swirls in white. And before I add paint, I might add some in blue too. And maybe a yellow star. How about that? All right, let's check it out. Let's see if it works. So I have a brush. Maybe I'll do a little blue. And look, you can see that white oil pastel start to show up because it's resisting the watery paint. I'll go over my star too. Go blue, I'll go over that star. Oh, that yellow shines through. I love it. So again, if it gets too wet or if it's going into another object that I haven't painted yet, I can dab it up a bit to lighten it up and to get rid of some of that color. And that's also a way to dry it so you can move on to other areas too. I'll show you a few finished ones here. So this one, I use just crayon and watercolor paint. And then this one, I used crayon and the temper cakes that I just showed you. And this time I had some apples and gourds. And I used some different lines and swirls in the background. These sunflowers were nice and bright and alive. And you can see different texture marks and lines that I used with the waxy crayon, waxy oil pastel. So you can be a little bit like Van Gogh, read the stories that I put on there, those links, and then make your masterpiece. Again, it can be a copy of Vincent Van Gogh's, it can be looking at objects that are at your house or even outside, or you can look at the images of fall and autumn still lives that I put in the slideshow. So, show me what you got. Be a little bit like Vincent Van Gogh. Use your lines, use your swirls, use your colors. Try to get at least one sunflower in there to remind us of Vincent's favorite color. Adios, amigos.